Welcome to A Matter of Pact, a Minions, Warmachine, Hordes podcast, celebrating strength through diversity. This is Gaston.
And this is Rickard, and we are your hosts for this podcast. And today we have a special guest among us. Let's welcome Bret Fogel.
Yeah, I'm excited.
Yep. Welcome. You won Adepticon, and now you're kind of doing the talk show tour.
Yeah, it's amazing the difference that 2 seconds can make.
So you want to give a little bit of background, your start in Warmachine, you know, how you started by playing Signar and just you saw the light and then you ascended into Minions greatness.
Signar? How dare you insult me so? I started playing Warmachine back in Wrath, like 7 years ago. I started with Mercenaries, actually, until I went to Adepticon and got my ass handed to me by Gatsby 2 and Mark II. And then I never played her again.
That'll do it.
Yeah. Hilariously, I picked up Circle because I'm like, oh, I need something that can survive the Caustic Miss. And it turned out Circle was good in the Gatsby, but not for that reason. And it also turned out that Circle was a really perfect faction for me. I love the hit and run, I love the War Beast heavy. I actually loved playing Minions heavy back in Mark II. People always joke that I was a Minions player all along. I was playing, Croak Raiders and kinds of, and Slaughterhousers. And then Mark III happened, and Circle lost a lot of the hit and run aspect, and Minions gained a lot of it, weirdly. I feel like Minions plays a lot closer to what Circle, like the Circle I want to now, than Circle does. Especially since Barnabas 1 is better Cormac 1, and Barnabas 2 is better Cormac 2.
Well, I think it always kind of felt like going through Mark II that Minions had the ability to pull off a lot of shenanigans, but you had to like work extra hard for it. Mm-hmm. And I'm wondering if like in the transition from 2 to 3, they removed a lot of the extra work and you just got to keep the shenanigans.
That is absolutely true of Arcadius. Holy crap, his feed was hard to set up in Mark II.
Oh man, he just got so much easier to play.
Yeah, extremely. I think the Roadhog got very much improved as well. Like now you can trigger the sprint after actually killing something instead of before, and I think it used to cost 2, right?
Yeah, it used to cost 2. I think the big thing for the Roadhog is it lost the Pathfinder.
Yeah, on the aggression dive.
Yeah, and so that's what's killing me. Like I have this love-hate relationship with the Witch Docks, where I'm like, I love them because I love Ghostly, but I hate that I have to keep including them. I feel like it's like an 8-point Pathfinder tax. Yeah, no, I mean, and go through buildings. Like I love feeding through buildings on Arcadius's feet onto huge base models.
That's amazing.
Fun fact: discuss with your opponent how tall 2D terrain is. I had that come up. I'm like, so is this building 4 inches tall or is it 6 inches tall? No one knows. But you kind of rode into victory on the back of Maelok, so it seemed to be kind of a good meta zeitgeist moment to do a deep dive into our favorite Bokor.
Yeah, I feel like he's especially a good topic of the moment because he's specifically good into a lot of things that aren't good in the meta right now.
What do you could you expand upon that? What do you think that he's specifically good into, like the particular boogeyman lists?
Well, I built him for the Troll Champion brick because there's a lot of healing and the -2 death, -2 armor is huge into that. And he turned out to be really, really good into Scorn, which was a big surprise, and really nice because they have.
I was just gonna say that kind of surprises me.
I don't know. The matchup just goes really well. The thing about Gators is with +2 armor is that they're really, really good in combined range attacks, like POW 12, POW 13 shooting, even boosted, or like 10-man CRAs, are incredibly inefficient into them. And that's what a lot of the Scorn lists look like. They want to get a lot of work done with their, Animantrax shots. They want to get a lot of work done with the Reaver shots. They have a Battlegroup that's just 3 POW 12 for POW 13 shots. And none of those are particularly efficient. So they have to get into melee in order to do a lot of damage, at which point you can respond since your threat ranges are actually exactly the same. And with mortality and like 4 or 5 charges, you can take down an Animantrax and only lose like 1 or 2 Gators to do it. And then
so are you talking specifically about like the Resheth wins list?
Resheth wins, Zadesh, I think he's usually Imperial Host, because your feat cancels his defensive strike countercharge. And also into the Immortal spam, because you're both playing POW 13 Arm 22 lists, but he has to break armor 8 times, and you'll have to do it once, and you get an armor debuff. So you have a huge advantage in that matchup.
So I actually ran into that same exact math problem playing Kalissa into Maelok, which was kind of a weird turnabout where I had a bunch of Sentinels, and I'm sitting there and looking, I'm like, it takes 3 Sentinels to kill a Gator, but each Gator can kill 2 Sentinels.
Yeah.
And you just look at the trading, and you're like, oh, this is not good.
Yeah, that's fine as long as you have 50 Sentinels.
I did not have 50 Sentinels. Yeah, it was a little bit weird to be on the other side of that matchup. But and I think the other one that's worth mentioning, particularly in Scorn, is I don't know if this is still a big thing or not nationally, but Meowcada.
Oh yeah. Oh, and yeah, Meowcada is a great example of why I looked at Maelok in the first place, because it's like, I feel like in the meta right now you can't play unless you have mass anti-healing, Harbinger, Hordes Harbinger, all the tough, all the trolls. So like having a spell like Mortality is like the difference from winning and losing.
Did at Adepticon were the Legion Cavalry pre-released? Did they come up at all?
No, they're still not in the war room. They haven't been released yet.
Okay, I couldn't remember when they come out because they're another example of anti-healing being a big deal.
Yep, yeah, but Abby won her new feat is definitely available.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's safe to say that, if we're going through Maelok, we're going to assume people have read the damn card. But you say his strengths would be Mortality in particular, Death Pact, the feat. I mean, I think the feat is something that is really, it's a simple feat, but it's one that has so much flexibility to it because not only does it shut down abilities, but it kind of fixes the Pathfinder issue that Posse come with.
Yes, it also gives him Tactician, which is huge. I think there are a couple of hidden strengths of Maelok. I think one of the hidden strengths is massive undead and living RFP. So there's a lot of, just like always, there's a lot of rules that key off of living, and being undead gets around them. The biggest of those, of course, being awe. And then speaking of meta, they have a lot of living recursion, so having an entire army of stacking is a secret strength. I think another big strength that's kind of hard to see is how fast the list is. For an army that has no AD and is composed entirely of speed 5 models, it is really surprising how fast they get up the table. Because they don't shield wall, they run every turn, but they're still just as good defensively. And they get Death Ride for the +1 inch, they get 2 inches of deployment, which is especially relevant if you go first. Those gators are way up the table, especially compared to like other A1 models like say Shock Troopers, where they're as high armor or higher, but they're only moving like 6-7 inches a turn.
Well, I think you can also add in Veil of Mist to have army-wide concealment even on top of that. So now you're coming in at 14-18, which is pretty reasonable.
Yeah, against guns.
Yeah, because I mean, it's been kind of always my mantra is Gatormans don't like being shot at and they don't like being knocked down.
Yeah, I can't do anything about the knockdown.
Yeah,
but
the knockdowns.
+2 armor is actually
Yeah.
+2 armor is actually a really surprising breakpoint. It means like boostable guns, you have to boost both the hit and damage, which is a problem for like Storm Striders, who have a limited number of boosts.
But I think it's also worth mentioning that the new unyielding rules has actually been a really big boon for them. Because when I used to play Maelok, what my opponent would do would be to actually throw gators into each other to knock them down, and then they wouldn't be engaging anymore. So they wouldn't get the +2 armor and they would melt much more faster. Now it doesn't matter if they're knocked down, they still get the bonus against melee.
Yeah, it's also huge. It also makes tough way more irritating because now you have to break their arm 22 after they tough.
Yeah, that's a really good point.
I'd say that throwing gators are still like a good thing to do if it doesn't cost you too much, because knockdown gators are sad. They're not going to do a lot of work next turn.
Right.
Have you done much with trying to do anything in the way of revive and heal? As when I was playing against Maelok, you kind of set it up so that way you revive the gator the next turn, Quack and Gub, heal him up, and then you put Death Pact back up, kind of as a little conveyor belt.
I don't know. I think this is like the only list in Minions where Quack isn't worth it. Because there's so few war beasts, and I don't know about the healing thing. I'd rather just have a 1-box gator. That's plenty on its own. at that point, unless it goes back to full health, it's really positioning that's going to keep him alive anyways, or he's just going to be like an irritating piece rather than something actually strong and survivable. I've gotten a lot of work out of Revive, but it's kind of a side game. It basically just depends on if you can find Soul Harvester targets. You'll find that a lot of lists, especially in Hordes, will have like, you know, a living skirmish unit that'll go up and like jam, and like that is the worst thing in the world to do against Maelok, because it doesn't matter how hard to kill you are or how tough you are. If you're single wound infantry, mortality will make it so that you're easy to kill, and then, you know, turns into 10 souls, which turns into 3 revived gators. It's a huge detriment. Like I was playing against in the finals of Adepticon, my opponent had Idrians, and he'd played the matchup before. So instead of just running the Idrians into the teeth of my gators and giving me a bunch of souls for free, he ran them all the way around the table.
Flanking. Which kind of brings up, because one of the things I've noticed is I had a couple instances where I was playing into a gun line that was good enough to do some damage, so I ended up feeding on like turn 1, especially when I was going second. And what that took away was the incorporeal to get unjammed, and then jamming actually became an issue. Have you seen, like, because you're running your entire army is basically 4 units, and you have that activation where each unit's got to activate with all the members together. Have you seen them jamming being an issue, like especially later in the game?
So I think that really depends on if you go first or second. Because if you're going first, when they're, air quotes, jamming you, they're jamming you like at the back of their zones. So it's, you know, you just have to kill like 4 or 5 models a turn in order to score, which makes it a lot weaker. When you're going second, it turns into a super long game, and so yeah, it's you have to turn those jamming units into souls and like win an extremely long attrition game.
And I think that actually kind of brings up almost a weakness of Maelok. Would you say that just endurance, tournament endurance?
Yeah. I mean, so that's one of the big reasons I'm picking up Arcadius, is just to have, you know, someone to practice assassinations with. Because yes, Maelok has, so the only quick Maelok games are the ones where it's a scenario blowout. Every other game just goes into like 2-hour, you know, killing 60 models grind.
Yeah, it can get rough. You see, I mean, one of the traditional weaknesses that's always been highlighted for him is armor skew.
Mm-hmm.
Would you say that's been a problem?
I think that is absolutely still the case. I think the hardest thing for him to fight is an unyielding battle group of warjacks that are like arm 19 base, or you know, or
I mean, as long as it's not on a caster that also has a really strong control feat.
Yeah, well, there are definitely 2 of them. I think Magnus 2 and Gatsby 3 are both big problems for Maelok. Although, ironically, I think Maelok is one of the better answers into Magnus 2. Just because he's a really good caster, especially in the minions.
Yeah, I've actually had to play that particular matchup before, and it was a really weird pain in the ass, because that's when I was playtesting the Dracodile.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, the Dracodile just on its own feels like it adds a whole side game of, can I keep this stupid thing alive?
And able to move.
Yeah, able to move did not happen. So, stupid Magnus feat.
Yep.
So I ended up, I think, jamming his jacks up with Posse so that the Dracodile didn't die.
Yeah.
And then it completely underwhelmed me with its damage output. But
The Dracodile. It's a lot better with Signs of Hordes.
It's a lot better with anything. Because unfortunately, Maelok, he doesn't support it. Well, yeah, I don't want to get into that one now. We have that one later on. But the Dracodile needs support.
Yeah.
It's not something that can run on its own.
Yeah, whereas the battle group I run, it's like, if it gets something, that's great, but really it's just spending 28 War Beast points.
Yeah, I mean, we can almost jump to that. So your battle group is just designed to spend exactly his War Beast points?
Pretty much. I think the Blind Walker isn't particularly necessary. I feel like the Arc Node, actually, the one time I did use the Arc Node, I think it lost me the game, because it gave me the illusion that I could keep up mortality on 2 sides of the board. Which cost too many of my resources and eventually lost me the attrition game. But most of the time, Maelok is so survivable, and there's so much stuff in the way that he can very easily get within 10 inches of stuff to mortality. And even if he can't, 99% of the time your casting is being done by the Soul Slave, which is really the big reason why I wanted to put the Cauldron in the list. So the Soul Slave is doing most of the mortality casting. Your list is based around mortality, and a lot of the time you're casting mortality into defense, like 14 targets, like champions or something. And so having a 50-50 chance to hit the mortality is kind of dicey. So I like having the reroll in order to make it, a 75% chance, and it comes up a ton because, like I said, he's doing most of the mortality casting. And then once you have the Cauldron, the Bone Swarm is actually as good or better than the Blind Walker in melee. It has one less attack, but it's 3 points cheaper. It's also differently survivable because of Swarm and high defense immune to knockdown. And then it also gives you the points you need in order to get a Bull Snapper. And a Bull Snapper isn't a particularly good war beast, but Spiny Growth is incredibly good on Maelok because his defensive stats are already crazy. It takes him from 14-17 to 14-19 with Death Pact, 14-21 with Spiny Growth to 14-23 with Feet, which is nigh unkillable unless you're playing Crucible Guard. And it also gives you a war beast that's perfectly happy to just sit way in the back and score like a spread the net zone.
Well, I mean, I'm generally like super against the Bull Snapper because I think he's just a colossal waste of points. Well, he's a waste of 5 points. It's not colossal points. But
if you're forced to spend those points.
Well, and that's the thing is I've gone through kind of this evolution as I get closer and closer to your battle group, where I started with the Dracodile knowing that it was suboptimal just because I bought one and I want to fucking use it.
Mm-hmm.
But then my original plan with the battle group was 2 Wrestlers in order to help kind of shore up the armor cracking. Basically use them as disposable missiles. If there's a couple jacks out there, they either get the jack down to the point where the posse can handle it, or they just kill it and then die. But it's out of your way.
Mm-hmm.
And then as I was starting to, I looked at what you're doing with the Soul Slave and Spirit Cauldron, and I was like, okay, we'll steal that. So I got the Spirit Cauldron in there, started with a couple of Bone Swarms, so that way the Cauldron has something to give the corpses to. And so I'm kind of at right now a Wrestler and 2 Bone Swarms. So which isn't wholly different from a Wrestler, Bone Swarm, and a Bull Snapper, but it is 2 points.
Yeah. Yeah, man, I would run that battle group for sure if the stupid Cauldron could collect friendly undead corpses.
I hate balance.
That would probably be pretty broken. Going back to like the node chat, you don't feel yourself missing the shield guard, because I found it pretty valuable in my game so far.
I think the shield guard is incredibly valuable into Magic 1, because that axe is just so good. I didn't find it super useful in a lot of other matchups, but that might have more to do with positioning or mispositioning the Blind Walker than to do with the strength of the rule.
Mm.
What are you shield guarding against?
In Magic?
Is it Maelok is the main target for your shield guard? Or a random posse?
Yeah, I want to make it harder for him to trigger Blood Boon. So I'm trying to shield guard like posse members and especially the Soul Slave, because when he gets ricocheted out, it's really bad. But I also wanted him to be like relevant to kill things, so it's like I'm putting him farther forward, and it's like he's only covering a couple models, so maybe that was the problem.
Well, I mean, I think Ricard and you had kind of touched upon the interesting thing with the nodes, where kind of my rule of thumb with list building with him was that if I'm going for ranged, then I want to get mortality out further and earlier. That's when I start looking at the arc nodes, versus if you're running a melee base with all the posse, they're coming to you, or you're going to go to them. But either way, you're going to get close enough where it doesn't matter.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I think the list that I play is fast enough that and keeps Maelok safe enough that he can be within 10 inches of a target, and there's like 40 boxes of gators between him and anything that can hurt him.
Yeah, I mean, I guess you can just like body block, like keep 2 gators back. That's like what I used to do. Also, when he was in danger, just put 2 in front of him and let him tank it. And then you should probably have, like, they should be able to soak enough that everything is threatening to Maelok afterwards you can deal with like 1 or 2 transfers.
Mm-hmm. Well, and a lot of times, people going through the assassination on Maelok is a good way for Maelok to win.
Yeah.
He'll very often camp 2 transfers. He'll be 14-21 and like dealing damage to Vortex and Warbeast that him in melee.
I mean, do you find him getting assassination run often? Is Spiny Growth actually coming up that much?
Mostly, I just enjoy like the light in my opponent's eyes dying when they're like, "All right, I'm losing this attrition game. I need to go for this assassination. What's your caster stats? 1421. Sorry, what?"
It's like playing against Ricard. So one thing, if Ricard wants to go with this, is Blind Water versus Will Work for Food. I know Ricard's actually been playing him in Will Work for Food quite a bit.
Yep. So, I mean, I'm not denying that the Blind Water version is strong, but I like more flexibility in my lists, and I prefer to play like war beats a lot, and of course Raggers are amazing. So I think you can actually make a point for food, and especially since you get a host of shield guards that are super tanky and revivable in the list as well. I don't think you get the scenario lockout as well as you do in Blind Water, but so far I've been doing pretty good, and of course I'm trying to drop Maelok mostly into score and trolls, and like as Bret told earlier, like any miserable attrition grinding games that Barnabas 2 isn't able to like handle or do very well, like Miaukeda, that's where I want him, and especially into Scorn I super value the shield guards.
I mean, it's almost not complete without talking about Ninja Pig though, and the feet turn.
Ninja Pig and like all the lessers, but yeah, Rorsch's Incorporeal Ghost Rorsch is amazing.
He's what, a 14-inch incorporeal threat on an opponent's caster, something like that.
Yeah, and I think if you bring him, you probably bring Lenissa as well, just for the potential of Hunter's Mark.
And then, was your list running Brun and Lug?
Yeah, they're there now. I'm running Snake and running Lug. I'm not running the Pig right now, but I could.
What?
I'm trying it out.
What?
So my reason for not running the Pig is that he's pretty squishy. Which doesn't matter a whole lot, because you have Valkyries, so you can place him really aggressively anyway. But it's like when I feat, I have like Squishy Pig, Squishy Snake, and a dwarf that tanks the entire world.
Can you explain that one for the listeners?
Yeah, okay, so Branas has this upkeep called Stonehold, which makes him take one less die damage from everything, from any attack. That Pact makes him into armor 17, and then on Fate is armor 19 with transfers and one less damage die, and defense 13 brace. So he is probably the hardest model to kill ever, I think. I don't think I ever lost him during a feat turn, and I played him really aggressively as well. So
that's hilarious. I am so disappointed for you for not including Ninja Pig.
I mean, I haven't fixed the list yet, so I mean, it could end up there, but for now, I'm doing like a bigger Battlegroup just to get more tankiness and more push.
Kind of makes me miss Mark II when we had Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles with Maelok.
Yeah.
With 4 turtles and Ninja Pig. It's a lot better than the Hento Bento one, which was all the squids.
Hento Bento, nice.
I forget how many I think it had 5 squids in it, but
yeah.
That was back before they changed Death Pact.
Yeah, but anyway, so what I think that the food gives Maelok is more flexibility. You still have a pretty awesome troop choice in Valks. You still get to play with the lessers, which are like a whole nice toolbox in themselves. But obviously you lose out on tankiness.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I mean, one of the things that I think is worth mentioning is how Death Pact stacks with the wide variety of minion solos that are in fact tanky, that you can't necessarily get in Blind Water, such as Hutchuck. Gudrun is actually, he's got 16 boxes with both his deaths and then +2 armor on top of that.
Bokers.
The Bokers or something there. I think the Bokers are almost as hard as the Gators, the GMP to kill, if memory serves me correctly.
20 if they get the shield.
Yeah, so in Posse's arm 20. And melee,
Mm-hmm.
And one thing that comes up and keeps going and going and going in cycles with World War for Food and Blind Water is husks.
Mm.
Because husks on paper should be so good with Maelok. But they leave those clouds. So I don't know if, Bret, you wanted to talk about, have you ever tried husks with Blind Water in Maelok?
So I'm very early in testing with husks. So far, they have never died. because no opponents bothered to attack them.
In that case, congratulations.
We're like, so wait, they're just starting to kill this Gator. Yep, but they don't do anything better offensively. No, not even close. And they spray me back if I hit them. Yeah, they can just go wherever they want. Okay, they take 3 free strikes. Whatever, that's fine. I don't want to make those attacks. All right, they missed an important solo. God damn it!
Have you ambushed them at all?
No, I haven't ambushed. I think it's better to have. So the reason I like them is that you get up to like 4 or 5 AB models, so you're pushing scenario even further back between them and the Thrullgs.
Well, I was watching the was it Danny Daigle versus Chris Orr game from whatever tournament that was, and I thought he had an interesting thing where he was chain ambushing in his husks in order to just not lose on scenario.
Yeah, like I said, I'm early in testing with husks. I like on paper they should be good, and in practice they've been less than stellar. And it's like I need to put in more time to figure them out. I think the cooler switch that I'm making is long chops. I think he's a really awesome addition to the list because the trap is super irritating, and just having a single like range attack makes a really big difference in the list. It makes solos a lot less safe. If you get mortality on the stone, it's like an auto loss because he can RFP the Grail Stone from ranged, and they can't save it in any way because of the lack of healing, and then it's gone for the rest of the game. And it's like that's worth 5 points right there.
That's actually something I've loved about Jaga Jaga's feat, is they get the tough check and that's it.
Yep.
And I think it's interesting because you can pull the one of the things that Will Work for Food does is it doesn't have a lot of units, so you can pull the husks and long chops into that version of Maelok and actually have some answers to infantry when you're trying to get all your beasts unstuck.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because low mat, like even with overtake, low mat war beasts aren't going to do it.
Yeah, did you have husks in your list, Ricard? What was your list?
The Maelok list?
Probably list that out. Yeah.
No, I need to bring it up on War Room. But it's like 300 Valks, Snake, because you have to go with Snake when you do food. Burn Log. Let's see. Of course, the Soul Slave. I think I have Double Wrestler, 1 Blind Walker. Yeah, that's it. And Witch Dock, Lanissa, and Quack and Gub. That's it.
Yeah, Quack and Gub is a lot better in your version than mine.
Yep.
Yeah, Enliven's just been fantastic to have as a tool. And even the Venom sprays can be very handy.
Yeah. The whole
and
package.
never Mudfoot.
I'm gonna get use out of it someday, for sure.
I tried. I tried to get it fixed in CID. That was my campaign.
But to get a longer range?
No, I wanted it to. I kept pointing out how easy it was to get around, like even freaking like Relentless Charge.
Oh, kind of like God, who is it? Rorschach's one spell that no one ever casts.
Pig Form.
Pig Pen? I think Pig
Pen?
Farm's
One of them.
Pig Pen. I think it's Pig Pen.
It's like
I
a
remember
bad
trying to.
I've cast it. Never done anything.
I think the last time I cast it was literally 7 years ago. I was young. I didn't know what I was doing.
I mean,
I was like, no, this is gonna be great.
The littlest inhospitable ground.
Yeah, it's just 3 inches around him. It's not even 6 inches.
No. 6 inches would actually be really good.
Yeah, one day they'll go in CID in 18 months from now.
Yep. I mean, I guess we can do some sort of soft, like rough terrain denial with Dracodile, Floodwaters, Little Pig Pen, Quack, just shut down scenario. They can't get anywhere.
I need you to start working on that list.
Eventually.
Because I mean, obviously, the one place that Rorsch needs to be is at the front.
But I mean, that's fine. Just bring the Jack Marshall.
Oh God, Rallick.
Rallick, yeah,
Mammoth
Claw. Yeah, and you just take a Buccaneer on him, and just throw the net on him, feign death, 3 inches of.
We need to put you back in your box. You're getting a little crazy.
I mean, it's free.
Yes, that's why you should take him, because he's free. Even like we had Hungerford on, he's like, oh, he's just there if you want to be stupid.
Yeah, I mean, as soon as they removed it, you can headbutt your models. I was like, yeah, there's gonna be value.
So we talked about like we'll look for food solos. Like, well, I mean, it seems like Hutchuk never makes it. He's only like the best solo.
Yeah,
So
I mean, the food solo selection is amazing. It's so crazy. It's like whenever anybody posts a list, and it's like, yeah, why don't you bring this solo? Because I mean, I already had awesome solos. I mean, I would love to have that solo as well, but I have like 20 other solos that's competing for the same spots.
Yeah, it's like, well, he's definitely not better than Quack. He's definitely not better than Orn. He's probably not better than Eilish. That's most of my free solo spots.
Yeah, I think that the solo spots need to be tailored for what you're actually going up against. So I mean, it might make it in if you need extra armor cracking, I guess. But
yeah. Well, it kills me when I'm playing Blind Water and I only get up to like 2 free solos, and I'm like, all right, one's got to be the Soul Slave, and usually the other one's the Misspeaker because of fucking cricks. And I'm like, Long Chops, no, come back.
So Bret, do you find yourself being the Misspeaker, or do you find yourself missing him a lot?
I do not find myself missing him in Maelok. I don't have any guns to use out of sight. My plan for Cloud Walls is just to run into them. And while he is surprisingly good against cricks, I don't tend to drop him into cricks. And if I desperately need magic weapons, I have the Thrullgs for that. And the Thrullgs are just amazing.
Yes, let's talk about Thrullgs and Maelok.
I mean,
so tasty.
So I don't know if the Thrullgs are like excellent in a vacuum, but I play them in 2 of my lists, and I think they're excellent in both of them. I play them in Barnabas 1, I play them in Maelok. So in Barnabas 1, you just desperately need the anti-armor, like you need to be able to take off Arcane Shield. But in Maelok, what makes them so good is that there are another 2 Gators in the very worst case, except they're Gators with Pathfinder and Mat 7. And because, you know, they're still 8 boxes, they're still Arm 16, they still have POW 13. And so they have 80, so they're further up the table, even further up the table than the rest of your list, and allow you to jam in, even if all the special rules in the back of the card do nothing. But you mentioned earlier keeping 2 Gators back in order to keep Maelok safe.
Mm-hmm.
It's even better if you can do it with 2 Thrullgs.
Sure.
Because they make you immune to like TK or Gallows because they have Spell Ward, and it seems really important in like the Guru 2 matchup because they have just so many spells. And then every once in a while, Maelok's worst matchup is definitely a big Battlegroup Warjacks, whether it's Amon, whether it's Magnus, whether it's Slayers, and being able to disrupt 2 or 3 of them in a game can really turn the tide. Especially if it's on feat turn and they're, you know, Arm 20. If they screw up, they can get healed by spells. They're just really awesome pieces in the Maelok list.
Yeah, it was after the CID in December. I told my wife I wanted 2 for Christmas. So
yeah, I
never looked back.
In the 2 lists I played them, I don't think Pathfinder and Prowl made a huge difference because I was already having a plan to protect them. But yeah, it's a nice buff.
Yeah, I think the Pathfinder especially helps them a lot.
Yes. Well, yeah, because you can't give them freaking Ghostly.
Nope.
Stupid Spell Ward.
Yep.
But I mean, I think
no bonus short.
They could also shore up, I think, the Denny 2 matchup, just for minions in general, because she has the incorporeal jacks, and they can go on in, they're magical, and they can disrupt them. Because the main minion's answer, now that Jaga has lost the magic weapon spell, is pretty much just a Misspeaker, which is only going to affect, you know, 1 model. So I think they're a little piece of tech that's worth keeping in the back of your mind for that particular matchup.
Have you been having trouble with Denny 2? I find that she's not particularly good into any of our Battlegroup Masters.
So you're going to hate me. I'm having trouble finding a Crix opponent.
Oh, okay. That's who I play against the most.
I'm like asking people to play. I'm like, so are you done with your Grymkin? Can you play Crix now? And he's like, oh, maybe. Everyone gets upset when I say that.
I mean, I can't find a Signar player to save my life.
I got Nemo 3 for the first time ever in a tournament a month ago. He had never played against Arcadius before. I think that's the first time I've ever seen someone back the Storm Striders up. He's like, you can go how far? So, unfortunately, I got to go first. If I go second, I think that's a wholly different game. So speaking of the solos, single witch dock or dual witch docks?
Man, I wish we could have dual witch docks again. I think the Thrullgs are more important. I think they show our weaknesses better, but the double witch dock is really awesome because you can still do death ride where you need to, but you can also get a sack strike. And it's really shocking how many matchups sack strike just changes. I was playing a bunch of practice games in my draft 1, and I kept losing them. And then one game, I sack struck 2 champions out, and almost another one out defensive line, and just auto killed a unit of champions. And it's like, what just happened? It just shockingly changes the matchup. And it's even more insane to Legions of the Order of this. Let's start Harbinger. It's like 5+ or die. I don't have to roll any dice.
I mean, that's a really good point with the auto hitting. Because I hadn't really considered that, especially when you're kind of looking to front load into the champions. Then you can remove every other one, and you can deny them a lot of their benefits.
Yes, yeah, no, it really, really changes the matchup. Like, sometimes when I did have double witch doctor, I would run with the witch doctors on the first turn, just so they could be in sack strike range.
I haven't done that yet. I might start having to do that. So you're down to 1 now, though, in your list currently.
Yes, that is the absolute minimum. You have to have a witch doctor.
Oh, for sure.
I mean, you keep them central, I'm guessing, so you can affect as many models as possible.
Yep. He generally I deploy him directly in front of Maelok, and then just all the gators spreading out from there.
What about Totem Hunter? He's one that I've actually run because I like his ability to jump over the posse, clear out things that are jamming him, and jump back or sprint back. Mm-hmm. Have you done anything with him at all?
I played him briefly. I remembered how much I hated Prey. I think.
Oh, come on!
I'm a circle player, man. I have so much hatred for Prey. But the problem I have with him is that I feel like he doesn't hit hard enough or like do enough more interesting stuff than a Thrullg. Whereas a Totem Hunter is slightly better than a Gator at killing things and getting out of the way. But he'll never break a gate wide open like a Witch Doctor or a Thrullg will.
Fair enough. Actually, one thing that it's not really a solo, but I think it's worth kind of touching on because I was looking at them, and I hate myself for looking at them. Was Linus and Edria because they're so awful, but they're so awful.
We almost got applied knowledge to fix our Warbeast mat. We were so close.
Yep.
Oh my god, applied knowledge. Just make it minion. Don't make it Signar. I think that was the problem with it.
Yeah, whatever. It didn't happen. Let's not cry over spilled Gator blood.
Yeah.
Spilled whatever comes out of a husk.
I really like Linus and Edria in Will Work for Foodless, just because I very rarely run a unit other than Swamp Gobbers, and they're a nice resilient unit to put in a zone. And they're also, occasionally they'll come up where, they can take away the Dark Host clouds, or they can take away like Gaspy's clouds or like Haley 3's clouds. And even if they don't, they still just do a decent amount every turn, just with their 2 guns. And they can hold a zone really well. I don't think I would ever put them in Maelok, though.
Well, I think the thing with them in Maelok is that, just as you were talking about a couple Thrullgs staying back and protecting him, they can do something similar with Whipping Winds. And then I need to double check this quickly. I believe...
It only affects models in the unit, right?
Right, but then they can't be targeted by spells either, if memory serves correctly.
It's just non-magical ranged.
Alright, well then you should just ignore me. This is why Linus and Edria suck. But because Applied Knowledge is not a magic ability, it can actually go on a Thrullg. So you can send your Thrullg in on the Jack that you're already doing and rip off an arm, or kind of help the Gators with the Jack arms in that matchup.
Mm-hmm.
Because they have multiple attacks, and you get more use out of Applied Knowledge and more attacks that particular solo has.
Sure. I would rather have a lot of other things, and units aren't a problem in Blind Water.
I have to try.
I mean, I like Linus and Edria. I play them more for food. I don't think they're good in Maelok.
That's fine. That's fine. We already got Rallic Moorclaw in there, so I think my solo bingo is done on that one.
I actually have, I think it's a Barnabas list where it's got both countercharging models, and it's like, I actually have a reason to play Agata. It's awesome.
Oh my god. So every time I play her, which has been twice, she's charged, she's missed, and then they've hit her back in melee. And I'm just like, why am I taking you?
So I want to talk about the 4th Blackwater Posse unit. I think it's really, really important to actually have that 4th unit. I think turning it into ambushers or corroborators actually weakens the list by quite a large margin. And the reason I think that is that the point of the list is to have way too many high armor boxes, and so like those last 5 or 7 are more important than first 15. I mean that's why the Thrullgs are important, because they're the 2 gators. That's why I need the 4th unit, because a lot of lists can kill like 6 or 7 gators on a team turn, and then another 4 or 5 throughout the course of the game. And like if you only have 15 and you're left with none after they get through all the gators they can kill, it's a really big difference than having 5 gators left, especially if they're in different units and you can start reviving. It also makes the scenario jam a lot more viable, even against like high damage output things like champions, because you just have barely that tipping point enough to block or have one gator survive contesting. And then I think the last thing is the symmetry is actually really important against double Adrian lists, which are really common in mercenaries and off, because you can deploy your gators in the checkerboard, so that they're all on the deployment line, and then you just take whichever 2 units get prey, keep them in the back, and then the Adrians never get to make great shots, and it's really different than if they can prey 2 out of 3 of your units. Honestly, I just think like ambushers don't contribute anything on this.
Oh, that wounds me. Oh my god, that wounds me.
That was a specific jab at you.
Well, like I don't at all argue that 4 Posse is stronger than 3 Posse, especially now that I've actually had to play against it, and he only had 3 Posse, which is what kind of gave me a chance. The problem is that I literally don't use Posse in any other list, and I don't want to own 4 Posse. I don't want to paint another 5 fucking gators.
But they're so happy, they're dancing.
That's part of the problem. Like, what are they doing? Not all of us have had 21 since the early Rask Blindwater days. Ricard.
For shame. Filthy casual.
So my big advantage is there were tons and tons of scorn players in Dallas in Mark II. And so in Mark III, they're like just giving me their Gator Posse. It's like,
Yep.
like, please take them.
Yeah. Should be able to find some so cheap.
If I can get some that are already painted, then I'll do a 4th. But unless I can get some used that are already painted.
All right,
but I treat my models like used cars. So no, for economic reasons, I don't want to do it. So that's why I started exploring things like Croak Raiders and Ambushers. And screw you, I love Ambushers.
I do too. I played them in Rask. I qualified for Warmachine weekend with them.
So I just
Max FA Ambushers.
Okay, I actually got away from that ridiculousness. Because originally when I started with Maelok, I had actually done a max unit even because of Soul Harvester. Because I was looking, I'm like, okay, well, Soul Harvester competes with snacking, and I'd much rather have my gators healthy than feeding Jerk in the back who's not doing anything. And then I was also looking at them as bubble wrap, and that it's 10 models with its Soul Harvester with the reach, so it's kind of more efficient in that sense in my mind anyway.
Yeah, they had powerful charge.
They used to.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
Well, I think that's really funny because I was playing and winning with them, and I'm like, these guys are just like better Wolves of Orboros, and everyone's like, yeah, well, they used to have brutal charge. I'm like, what? Are you kidding?
Back in the day.
Have you gotten any use out of the pull roll?
Oh, I used it once.
Okay.
It was against a Harbinger with a Covenant of Menoth, and I pulled the Covenant out of his zone in order to score.
Nice. That's actually pretty good.
Yeah.
I'll give you credit for that one.
But yeah, in the 30 games I've played with 20 ambushers on the table, yeah, I've used pull once.
Yeah.
I actually used it against Sentinels because it's on the hit.
Wait,
So-
no, it's not. After the attack resolve. I thought I tried to get that changed.
Never mind. It is after it's resolved. I lied. I
Yeah.
cheated.
Yeah.
But no, I don't know. I found that ambushing in if I'm going to actually ambush, I only take a min unit, a min size unit, because just points wise. But I found about like a third of the time they do something ridiculously critical. About a third of the time they're useful, and about a third of the time it's basically why did I bother?
Well, there are two scenarios where they can ambush in and just kill an objective, and that's always awesome. And then the other third of the games are probably ones where they have cavalry that like to flank, and like ambushers will always make up their points if they can find a unit of cav.
I'm pretty sure my favorite one has been Nayslayers so far.
Well, those are cavalry technically.
And they're one damage point. So even better.
Yeah.
He was not happy with me on that one. My other awesome one was Tristan.
That's bad.
He's like, I'm going to run him to a flag. I'm like, no, you're not.
Please do.
Yeah, I think ambush is actually a really good rule in SR 2017 coming up for 2018. It's just you have to have the range out of it. It has to fit the style. Like, if you're playing a fast scenario with Rick, ambushing just detracts from that because it's like they already want to play very central because that's it's how you crack Rick, right? You hit it very hard in the center point and hope that they can't put enough back on you. And so ambushers force them to play more central, which is what you don't want them to do.
That's a really interesting concept that I hadn't considered.
Yeah. Well, so I was playing a Rascalist with 20 ambushers, and so the decision of what and how much to ambush is really big. And so I found that against lists like Harbinger that want to form a tight brick in the center, ambushers actually ambushing makes your list a lot worse because then they're like, okay, I guess I'll stay away from your ambush threat range, and they never do anything.
See, I'd always think of it as like there's so much in this game that you have to remember. Adding ambush is just like another thing your opponent has to remember. It's another option for them to screw up.
Mm-hmm. Oh, and I think that's a minion strength, especially with Enliven now.
Yeah, I mean with Enliven, but like I'll ambush. I'll actually take Thornfall and ambush with it. So I know no one plays Thornfall, but
I just bought 20 Brigans.
yay!
Brigands are good.
Why?
Because Midas is like my favorite.
But Midas Valkyries.
You can do that too.
Yeah, you can have both.
Yeah, I've been running one unit of Brigands with him for Death March, and then 3 Valkyries. So now the Midas kick I'm currently on is I'm trying to figure out if I want to swap out all of my gun bores for splatter bores, because they're slightly higher power. And then you got Brun and Lug, you got the Meat Thresher, and then you got the I don't think you can take the Bokor and Thornfall though. But there's a couple of things that you can take there now that you have knockdown, and kind of knock things down and then pound them with the POW 14s or POW 16s. But that's dojo for another time.
Yeah. Relic buck for the knockdown.
Back in your box.
I would actually like to try Midas with Valks and Nys. Just have 4 units with Vengeance and like mixed ranged melee. Could be fun.
Well, that's what I've been doing in World War for Food for him, because obviously you get the Soul Slave, and then you can still take the ranged battle group, and then you can also take. I waffle a lot, but I've been looking at Wrong Eye Snapjaw again.
I mean, they should be in consideration for sure.
Well, I mean, you don't need the Battle Boar in order to get his damage up to a reasonable point, which is the kind of the problem I have with Brun and Lug and with Rorschach Brine. And I don't particularly want to take the Battle Boar for ranged battle group, because it kind of feels like points spent in the wrong thing. And then you can also Battle Lust Wrong Eye, which is pretty amazing.
It's decent.
Decent, yeah, it's pretty amazing. Amazing.
I'm just thinking about Barnabas too.
I do Barnabas 2. I Barnabas 2 very badly. I need to Barnabas 2 better.
I'm like 5 games into him, and I still can't tell if he's just the most fun in Minions or if he's actually good.
I mean, I think it has to be good when you can tank up that hard.
Yeah. I'm always shocked
it's
at
fun
how
watching
tanky
Ricard do it.
Minion casters are. Because there's just like their stat lines are just so good. Spiny growth I take pretty often. They've got lots and lots of defense to armor buffs, and their stat lines are just insane.
Yeah.
You need to play some more pigs then.
Yeah, I played Sturmendring. He got assassinated.
Sturmendring is actually where I'm at, where you're at with Barnabas too. I'm like, are they good or are they just fun? I can't tell.
Their Dracodile is dumb.
Yeah. In many ways.
Yeah, I actually went back to using the meat thresher for it. But it was a fun game the one time. I think it just warps the list too much.
Oh yeah.
But anyways, cycling back to Maelok, Crow Craters, yay or nay?
They do not contribute to the list style that I play with Maelok. If you are playing a gunline style of Maelok, may I suggest Jaga Jaga?
It's a pretty fair point. It's the same problem Caliban has.
Yeah, honestly, I feel like that's one of the biggest problems in Minions right now is that Caliban and Carver feel like strictly inferior Maelok.
I'm surprised you say that about Carver because of his focus on beasts.
Yeah, but his beasts only get up to armor 20, so it's like the Gators, and they only hit
21.
as hard as Gators. Okay,
21.
but like they're the same stat line as Gators, and it's like they're just not as good. And like the fact, and you were talking about pigcasters dying. I mean, Carver will die all the time. Like he's lucky if he gets a 1 cam.
You what? You lose Carver?
I lose Carver in theory. I've never put him on the table because he feels like strictly inferior Maelok.
Oh, okay. I was like, wait a minute. He's like armor 20 and he's usually camping 1 when I play him.
Yeah.
Because I will say the things that made Carver that elevated him were the Soul Slave and the Bone Shrines.
Definitely.
Because then you can actually camp and get all your shit out.
Yep.
So, but I don't know, I put him in a different category than Maelok because I wouldn't even try to armor grind with Carver. It's more the mobility aspect of him. I think Quagmire is actually a really brilliant spell.
Mm-hmm.
And then, but like, I feel like Maelok is like a literal attrition grind, and Carver is, I'm going to hit you and I'm going to make it hard. It takes enough resources for you to hit back that I'll still come out on head on peace trading.
Yeah, maybe my problem is I keep trying battle wars, like huge amounts of battle wars with him.
You and Azahul, I swear to God.
It's like armor boxes. It should auto win.
And I mean, you can get a free rift every turn, right? From the Soul Slave.
Which has been awesome.
Yeah, and so
Oh,
now
there you go.
Yeah.
There's your soft Pathfinder killer.
Yep. So now we're up to a Carver list with Relic Morclaw, Roarge, Dracodile. This is gonna be awesome. so much movement tonight, especially with Quagmire.
Yep.
It must be happy hour over there right now. So I think actually, why not Jago is a pretty good answer to the Crow Craters.
Yeah. I mean, the anti-healing is a big deal, but Jaga just brings so many attacks, you just get through it eventually. So it's like, I've built a good Jaga list, I just don't know what it's good into.
If you're doing Croaks, it's good into Harbinger and Testament.
Yes.
Believe it or not.
Yeah, it's surprisingly good into champs. So I played it into Cold Grima champs, and I just ran past the clouds. It like came in from the sides. It was really fun.
I'm really excited to hear that because I've theoried that, but I haven't been able to play it yet.
Yeah, way back in Mark II, we did like a military tactics circle episode, and one of the topics we talked about is like the way that real militaries fought cloud walls is that they would set up like a firing line along the sides and just like cut down everything that crosses through the clouds. It's like that totally works in Warmachine.
Very nice. And have you done Maelok into Haley 3?
I've done it once, and it is shockingly good for Maelok. Like I think he is very favored in that matchup.
Even with Ragman, Ion, and Halt.
Yeah, well, so the Haley 3 list is really good at concentrating power. So like they can get Weapon Master Pow 14, Haley 3, Baby Haley into something, but they're not good at spreading that power out over a ton of models. And so it's like, even if you can't deal with the ghosts, I mean, 60 points of their list is essentially useless between all the single wound trencher infantry, and not just useless in a way that makes it so that you can turn it into more gators. the general advice against Halo 3 is don't walk into the cloud wall. Maelok can very easily walk into the cloud wall.
Okay, that's interesting because I mean she's always a problem, and then I know people have suggested him for Nemo 3 as well, and Halo 3 and Nemo 3 seem to be the pairing right there.
Yeah, well, so I was talking with Brent, who's a Signar player, and I'm like, yeah, I dropped Barnabas into Signar. He's like, wait, not Maelok? No, why would I drop Maelok into Signar? He's like, you idiot. And then we played those matchups. I'm like, oh wow, Maelok's really good at this.
Nice.
Yeah. I mean, I could see Signar players moving into Striker 2, I think, now, instead of Nemo after the nerf. I don't know if that's going to be a problem.
I haven't played it yet.
They need to get over that being nerfed. That's still phenomenal. Like we were talking about Gatsby Slayer spam, and I'm like, how does Nemo, even post-nerf, just not crush that? Because, I mean, your dice off 5 on all the Electro Leaps. Slayers are pretty easy to cripple.
I mean, now we're not even, like, falling into the trap as Signar player of shooting your own models. Now you have to shoot the opponent's models.
Right. God damn it, that's so overwhelming. I don't know what to do.
Yeah, I might have to spend a token on my Stormstrider.
Yeah, I mean, I think we're super off topic, but I think those changes are really good for the game.
Yeah, for sure. For sure.
Yeah,
I mean,
it's like Halo 2, where it's like now she has to like play a game. You can build a list that beats her, whereas Nemo 3 was unbeatable in the dojo because it's like I get 45 POW 12 of Master Electro Leaps that don't have to hit, that bounce off of my own models that I create.
Yep.
I'm actually really curious if there's going to be a secret Hellmouth nerf again. Because, well, I mean, the Nemo 3 one, we only know about that because they're doing the testing with Kane 0. But apparently it existed, and it's, waiting to spring a trap.
Mm-hmm.
And the entirety of the Legion CID was people bitching about Hellmouths. Rightfully so. Rightfully so.
Yeah, the weird thing about the Legion CID is that it came out and it was, like, basically done. It's like, these all seem like good changes. Yeah. I don't have anything to add.
Yeah, every now and then, like, they inspire confidence, and every now and then the dev team just does not. It's really, it's really weird.
All you have to do to, like, I don't know if you guys played Mark 1, I didn't, but, like, comparing Mark 3 to Mark 2 inspires confidence in me every day. I mean, I was a Bradigus player, for God's sake. It's like, I know what a broken new caster looks like.
Well, what killed me is, like, I finally had solved Bradigus and Minions with Midas in Mark 2 because of the splatterboards actually fixed it.
Mm-hmm.
And then with Protectorate, Durst dropped at the exact right time in the meta to actually fix that for Protectorate as well, because I was running Durst with 2 Judicators, and Bradigus just struggled there.
Okay, but the point I'm trying to make is that the game is so much more balanced than it was. Like, especially as Minions players, God, like, the difference between the worst faction, which certainly is Minions, and the best faction, which might be Minions, is so tiny right now.
I feel like that's a really interesting meta Mobius strip, where the best and the worst are both Minions.
No, the worst is definitely not Minions. They're so good into all the things that are good popular right now.
Yeah, I will say I've been absolutely loving them. So we kind of touched on the Dracodile a little bit. One thing is, what pairing? What do you kind of pair with Maelok?
I don't like Maelok into Crix as a faction, and I also don't like him into Grymkin, and he's also fucking terrible in Convergence. So it's like
you should totally expand on Grymkin part because that's important.
Oh, okay. So he seemed like he'd be good into Grymkin, right? It's like, okay, so he's really good into Bump in the Night, because it's really funny when the Nayslayers go in, they're still like dice off 6 because they don't have any of your 6 armor bonuses. And, he gets all their souls, he snacks on them, they can't Arcana most of the time because of RFP. It's all really good in Bump in the Night. But in Dark Menagerie, it would be really, really good up until the point where they remember their absolute worst Arcana, which is Accursed, and how it completely fucks over Maelok. Because they just save it, and then it turns off his feet, and it also turns off Tough, and it turns off Snacking, and it turns off Incorporeal. It's just so bad for him. And then the Manifest Destiny Skin and Bones can absolutely do enough work to be efficient into Gators, and it's really hard to kill them back with Arcane Vortex. There
you go. That was a very nice summation right there. It's such a subtle one that I think it's worth highlighting.
Yeah, and it's like, it would totally work into bad Grymkin players. So it's like, Are you willing to take that gamble? Will they remember Accursed?
I don't know. If they remember a curse as often as I remember sacrifice, then I should be okay.
Yeah, exactly.
God, I hate that one.
And it's like Minions is one of the factions that's better prepared to deal with sacrifice between mortality and a bunch of grievous wounds than a lot of other factions.
Yeah, I always just kind of walk into it.
Mm-hmm.
I'm dumb.
Yeah. So the original pairing I did was Barnabas 1 because he's an excellent Crux answer, and he's also an excellent Signar answer because I didn't think Maelok was good into Signar. But he's only so-so into Grymkin, and he is hilariously terrible into Convergence. Like, I'm like, this matchup will be fine, and then I got top-2'd by Teps. I'm like, no, I don't think this is okay anymore.
Yeah, they ignore everything he does.
Yeah, I got top-2'd accidentally. Like, the spillover damage from him trying to kill my Wrestlers killed my caster.
That is heartbreaking.
It was really bad. It's like so that's why I turned to Arcadius. Arcadius is just as good in the Crix or even better. I don't think Barnabas would have beaten the 50 Nectarol list that I played into at Adepticon twice. Whereas Arcadius with the fully boosted sprays and the sprint can absolutely do it.
Do you have long drops in that list?
I do not have long drops on the list.
Great shame.
Well, so long drops is really good for a long game. My Arcadius list does not play a long game. That game is over by turn 3, one way or the other.
Fair enough.
which might be a reason to take out Dalian's Wrath, but I don't know. I love him too much. Being able to turn off Shield Ball is so fun. And Arcadius is just so good into Grymkin, because he does a very, very good Abby 2 impression, where he gets Mad 8 War Beasts that are POW 20 that way out threat everything in Grymkin, and so it's like you pick out War Beast, you never have to worry about sacrifice because you're always doing melee attacks, and it's like, well, if they try and do like a cloud wall to make it a defense brick, then or like Starcross or something, you have the snake to paralyze them. It is just all kinds of bad news for Grymkin.
Yeah, it's been interesting because every time I look at pulling the snake out of my Arcadius list, like it then turns around and does something amazing. I'm like, oh, I guess I should leave you in.
It's like it's the slowest thing in the list. It's so weird. This speed 6 for each model is the slowest thing in my list.
Yeah, and I mean the spray's amazing on it, so. And I believe you can needle the snake as well and get 4 dice to hit if you really need to.
Yep.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I think it was like Lock and Load when Mark III came out. I was playing against one of the Canes who was like defense 17, and I'm like, hey, watch this. Would you look at Rask at all to kind of keep it within the Gator family, or Barnabas too?
I'm actually considering Barnabas 2 right now. I think all 4 of those play, armor cracking Beast Brick pretty well. So I don't like. Yeah, I can't really pin down why I don't like Rask. I think it's because his feet is easy to work around, and he doesn't have like as many tricky parts as Barnabas and Arcadius do. He's also a lot less like his ability to deal with high defense is a lot less broad. It's like him shooting something is the main way, or Dahlia or Scrap, biting it. Defensively, he's a lot better. Like, he's incredibly hard to kill. Admonition's just freaking broken with Enliven. But I don't know. I just don't like him as much.
It's fluff, isn't it?
It's not fluff. I played a fluffy Rask list. I played a Rask list with 40 bog trogs in it.
Were they all in chains?
All right, you lost me.
He sold his people to slavery. God damn it! I've become the fluff bunny. God damn it!
I'm new to Minions, so apparently I'll learn this stuff along the line.
No, you won't. They don't write books anymore.
Oh, good.
It doesn't matter.
But I think the biggest bonus of playing Arcadius is that you're playing a Gator and a Pigcaster, and I'm always one to say that you should be playing both halves of your faction.
Hallelujah! Thank you. I go out of my way to do that.
Yeah. But yeah, I was really sad when I'm like, oh, Rask Barnabas, Maelok Barnabas. No, I'm not practicing what I preach, but the Pigcasters are so bad. Helga, why?
I actually think Helga has hidden depths, because I was running her with Roadhog spam.
She is far and away the best Swamp Gobber River Raider caster in the game.
Yes. And you should always bring them, right, Gaston?
Yeah.
Oh, my soul. Alrighty, well, I think we've pretty much covered everything, and it's been about an hour. So, any final thoughts? Any closing wisdom that you'd like to share?
Let's see. I got my jabs in against Caliban, Carp, and Falcon, so I think I'm good.
Fair enough. This has been a Matter of Death Pact, and we're signing off.
Oh,
Nice.
there you go. That was pretty bad fun.
Thank you, everyone, for listening, and we'll see you next time.
Thanks for listening. Bye-bye.